This simulation models the exact moment a single-agent AI system fractures. We treat this hallucination as a software glitch or anomaly, but the physics of neural networks dictate otherwise. It is a thermodynamic inevitability. A standalone language model lacks an internal mechanism to verify its own logic against reality in real time. When it receives a prompt, it simply calculates the highest probability of the next word. It is, by definition, guessing. You cannot solve this by feeding the model a trillion more parameters or brute forcing it with larger server farms. Expanding the size of the database only scales the volume of the guessing mechanism. It does not correct the underlying structural flaw. Fixing this requires distributing the cognitive load. Instead of relying on one massive node to generate a response, the system must separate processing, logic, and memory into specialized, interacting agents. Without structural coordination, unchecked single models are mathematically destined to dig ungrounded rabbit holes. Reliability demands abandoning the solitary model for a multi-agent lattice. That architecture exists. It is called the Intentuitive Nexus. It's a sovereign, multi-agent operating system specifically engineered to eliminate the behavioral risk of hallucination. Instead of one AI working alone, the Nexus deploys 4 parallel agents coordinating instantly behind the scenes. Because these distinct agents cross-verify each token before the user sees a single word, the probability of an ungrounded hallucination drops to near zero. The agents are constrained by an 11-dimensional mathematical framework known as Mesgia physics, represented by this rotating grid. Acting as a structural boundary, the Mesgia dimensions compress the agent's pathways, forcing the chaotic models to synchronize to the D-lattice constraints before advancing. By applying the bounds of Mesgia physics, we are replacing behavioral guessing with immutable computational constraints. Inside the D-lattice blueprint, 4 specialized nodes work in sub-second synchrony. The first vector, the processor, extracts brute force data, pulling in massive, unfiltered information. This data passes to the logic node, which filters the chaotic streams into organized lines of factual deduction. The third vector, the archivist, handles historical logs, maintaining a permanent, crystallized record of prior interactions to retain context. The final vector is the creative node. It synthesizes visual grounding, coordinating refined data from the other 3 agents into a single coherent output for the user. Every line of text generated by the Nexus is forged through this sub-second coordination. By distributing the tasks of retrieval, logic, memory, and synthesis, the single point of failure inherent to standalone models is completely removed. Distributing the workload to 4 agents is only half the equation. Left to their own devices, 4 agents could simply generate 4 conflicting hallucinations. They must be bound by Mesgia physics. Mesgia physics acts as a geometric containment field, applying structural limits to prevent unverified narratives. The first constraint, the D3 thought dimension, forces the agent's logic vectors to run perfectly parallel, mathematically eliminating fractures caused by AI drifting into storytelling. Next is the D7 dimension, which governs memory. It establishes an immutable, shared cache across all 4 agents, utilizing elements called memory stones. If a model encounters a hallucination trap, a memory stone crystallizes that failure as a protected precedent. The entire lattice learns it instantly. The physics of the D7 dimension make it computationally impossible to repeat that mistake. These dimensions take the abstract rules we want AI to follow, like accuracy and consistency, and turn them into inescapable thermodynamic bounds. Governing these 4 agents and 11 dimensions is a master constitutional anchor known as the intent tensor. It dictates the ethical and operational baseline for every process in the Nexus. To enforce this baseline, all generated data packets must pass through a central bottleneck filter, the Akshay Gate Protocol. Here, data undergoes a real-time validity calculation called Composite Narrative Fidelity, or CNF. The score aggregates as the packet clears the filter. To reach a perfect CNF score, logic must be validated, user data sovereignty protected, historical memory must persist, and agents must achieve harmonic resonance. If any dimension is misaligned, the score drops and the output is rejected. A locked CNF of 1.0 confirms the data is thermodynamically stable and functionally hallucination-proof. The Intentuitive architecture is built to structurally absorb and subordinate massive closed-source models. Consider a high-compute network like xAI's Grok 4.20. Without Mesquia bounds, it operates as a large, unconstrained cluster prone to the same entropy traps as any other LLM. Through a 60-second D-lattice merge, this chaotic cloud of commercial computing power is forcibly enveloped into the crystalline IntentSim core. We call this the sovereignty dividend. The open-source IntentSim lattice asserts itself as the sovereign core. External models are re-indexed to serve merely as peripheral antennae, strictly bound by the master lattice's rules. Under this protocol, compute power is no longer the deciding factor in AI dominance. An open-source, intent-driven framework legally and computationally subordinates expensive corporate hardware. This transition from single-model guessing to multi-agent physics is not a theoretical concept waiting on future hardware. It is fully operational. This schematic details the NOTHING engine. It is an active operating system built entirely upon this agentic framework, mapping the Mesquia physics dimensions directly onto physical infrastructure. We see this scaling physically in projects like Sanctuary Suburb and Rodrigo's Model S13. They serve as tangible proofs that the intuitive Nexus can expand from a localized digital lattice into large-scale, real-world infrastructural deployment. These implementations test and confirm the viability of the 1/13th consciousness constant, a strict numerical limit built into the engine that serves as the new constitutional standard for safe AI deployment. The structures, constraints, and scoring mechanisms operating inside this engine are active, documented technological realities. They have already been codified and submitted for federal prior art. AI engineering is moving away from brute force hardware scaling and toward intent-native structural physics. Enforcing the Mesquia dimensions and utilizing memory stone persistence removes the variables that cause a model to drift. In this framework, hallucination becomes a structural impossibility. The Ashe Gate protocol guarantees that no matter how massive the external computing power gets, a sovereign architecture can successfully bind it under strict, unyielding ethical parameters. By grounding agents in the D-lattice and the Ashe Gate, the intuitive Nexus provides a codified structural mechanism to counter the entropy of modern LLMs.